Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. All right, let's kick things off with a story about a guy who truly believed the world revolved around him. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Some people just need to be told off. Loudly. This story happened a few years ago, so details might be a bit hazy. I was returning home from a trip that I cut short due to a family health emergency. The flight was pleasant, but I was in a bad place mentally. I did what I usually do in situations like that and kept to myself, saying few words. I plugged in my headphones and started to listen to some podcasts during the 2-hour flight. Over the sound of the podcast, I heard someone speaking loudly in a pretentious nasal voice talking. I pulled out my earbuds and heard a guy arguing with a flight attendant about how he had asked for something several times but didn't get it. I didn't really care and tried to ignore him, but he kept going, asking the flight attendant for her name and telling her that the airline company must hear about it. I don't remember what he wanted, but it was some kind of drink they didn't have available for some reason. I returned to my podcast and raised the volume. 10 minutes later, by the podcast timer, he was still ranting in his annoyingly pretentious way about professionalism, respect, and giving customers what they want. I switched to some rock music to drown him out and saw the captain coming over to talk to him. He was flailing his arms around like spaghetti. My worry about my hospitalized grandmother gave way to anger, and I started fantasizing about all the different ways I would shut him up. The captain walked away with a frustrated look on his face, and the flight attendant started serving the other passengers and ignoring his attempts to stir up trouble. I think they got him some alternative drink, which he never touched. We landed, and I put my earbuds away to get ready to leave. He was first in line by the airplane door, and I was right behind him. The door opened, and an airport security guard was standing there to escort him through the tube. I followed, and by the end of the tube, a higher-ranking guard was waiting for him. He stood blocking the way out, and I saw that other passengers behind me were fed up with this guy who never shut up for more than half of the flight time. He was arguing about how terrible the crew and service was, and how he never had service this bad. He kept saying he needs to leave now because his family was waiting for him, or some similar reason. My anger was starting to boil. Should I shove him, bang my pulling bag onto his leg, punch him in the back? Would everyone clap? I had to head straight to the hospital, and everyone behind me had places to go. I've heard many stories about people like him online, across many different channels. Nobody would feel bad for them. But this wasn't only about them, it was also about who I am and what kind of person I want to be. I took a couple of deep breaths to calm down as he was telling the guards how to do their jobs, and with the most aggressive tone I could come up with, despite my stress and exhaustion, spoke up, "Get the F out of my way." That F-bomb was enough to stun him since everyone else was following a code of conduct required by their jobs, and for the first time since I noticed him, he had nothing to say. The guards took advantage of his silence and started to move him away, hopefully to some back office where he'll be delayed for a few hours. I left the airport and headed home for a quick shower and a change of clothes before going to the hospital. My thoughts kept going back to that entitled guy and how he thought he could be a pretentious and rude guy with people whose jobs require them to be polite. Politeness never works with them, and sometimes meeting someone who thinks they're scum is the wake-up call they deserve. Kudos to you for trying to keep your cool. In such situations, things could escalate out of hand if not handled correctly, and you may have gotten delayed because of it. And our second story. I want to file a complaint against her. So yesterday at work, it got pretty busy. I'm only part-time, so I was only there for 5 hours, but I still have to take a 10-minute break no matter how busy it is. I'll stay to help get the line down if there is one, but once I clock out for my break, there's nothing I can do until it's over. It gets to be about an hour and a half before I go home. My manager, who was my backup cashier, and I both had a line, but she told me to cut my light, finish the line I had, and take my break. Now, we have to clock out for our breaks, and to do that, we just put in our user ID, password, hit tab 5 times, then enter. Takes 10, maybe 15 seconds to do. I finish the last customer in line and clock out. As soon as I hit enter, this dude rushes up to my register, throws his basket down, and starts to unload it. I say, "I'm sorry, sir, but I just clocked out for my break. I can't help you." He gets all upset and throws his hands up, saying, "Come on, man, I just got over here and she's helping someone with balloons, but you're just gonna turn me away like that?" I apologize and he walks away. I thought maybe he was just having a bad day. I go to the restroom, come back, and she's got quite the line. I felt bad about that, but what could I do? I was still on break. I jokingly ask, "Where'd all these people come from?" And that same dude shouts, "They came from you being on break." I laughed it off, which admittedly may have just pissed him off even more, went to the office, right behind the registers, and sat down, because I'd been on my feet 3.5 hours by then. We'd been busy AF. I wasn't feeling well, and I had little sleep the night before. I then hear, "Where's your manager?" Lo and behold, it's that same guy. He then goes on to complain to my manager and say I'm unprofessional for turning him away and not checking him out. He then said, "And how do you feel with her sticking you with this line?" Like, first of all, sir, it was slow-ish when I went on break. Secondly, I can't control how busy the store gets when I go on said break. He just kept going on and on about how unprofessional I was. The whole situation was just absurd. Because, let's be real, this guy was complaining to my manager and calling me unprofessional because I wouldn't bend the rules and ring him up while off the clock. How dare I make him wait in line like literally everyone else in the store has to do? The best part, my break was over like 2, maybe 4 minutes after he left. Remember, my break was 10 minutes. When I went out there to continue my job, I got some customers through that had seen the whole thing. What did they have to say about it? "Don't let jerks like that get you down. He made a fool of himself by complaining because everyone else knew my register was closed. My light was off, and none of the other customers had tried to come to my register, and had heard my manager tell me to take my break." When he came to my register, he lost his place in line. Remember when I said my break was over like 2 to 4 minutes after he left? Yeah, he would have been out of there much quicker had he just been patient and waited in line like literally everyone else in the store had to do. I didn't get in trouble, because why would I? I did nothing wrong. My manager just told me to not let people like that get to me, which is sometimes easier said than done, but in this situation, given how odd it was, I found it pretty easy to just laugh it off. That's the first genuinely rude customer I've dealt with, the first complaint I've had, and of course it was on Black Friday. Edit. A lot of people are concerned by me saying I have to clock out for my 10-minute break. Just wanted to clarify that I do get paid for them. I just have to clock out for documentation purposes so that they can verify that I took my break. Every employee has to do it, even the managers. I've found that some people think the world revolves around them and everyone else on it is just there for them. You're not real and don't get tired needing a break, so why should you take a break when it causes them so much inconvenience? Wish I could tell you it's the last time you'll run into one, but I can't. And our last story. Entitled neighbors demanded access to my pool. When I bought my house 25 years ago, I already knew what kind of nonsense I wanted to avoid. My last house had a pool, and it was practically a community free-for-all. People would sneak in like it was a public park. Kids I didn't even know would show up with floaties, and I once caught a full-on birthday party happening in my backyard while I was at work. So when I saw that this new place came with a flimsy chain-link fence around the pool, one that I, at 5'10", could practically step over, I knew it had to go. Before I even moved in, I ripped that thing out and had a solid stone wall built. I also installed pool alarms, security cameras, and a self-locking gate. There was no way I was dealing with another summer of uninvited guests doing cannonballs in my backyard. Apparently, my new neighbors had other plans. Within days of moving in, I started hearing complaints. At first, it was just passive-aggressive comments. "Oh, I see you put up a wall. Well, that's a shame. The neighborhood just isn't the same without open access to the pool. The previous owners were so generous, I hope you're as friendly." Then the entitlement escalated. A couple of neighbors actually threatened to sue me because they believed they had grandfathered rights to my pool, as in since they'd used it before, I legally couldn't stop them from using it now. One woman even said, "My kids have swum in that pool every summer for 10 years. You can't just close it off." Oh, but I could. And I did. I told them flat out, this is private property. If you want a pool, build your own. That didn't go over well. One of them actually went looking for a lawyer to fight me on it. Spoiler alert, no lawyer would touch their ridiculous case. One of my new neighbors, let's call him Mike, was actually a decent guy. He saw me working to get the pool cleaned up and offered to help. We got to talking, and I learned that he couldn't even swim. He just liked hanging out, drinking a beer, and watching the water. Since he was actually friendly and respectful, I told him he was always welcome to come over and chill. We weren't best friends or anything, but he was a good guy. Well, that set off a whole new wave of drama. The same entitled neighbors who'd been demanding access to my pool lost their minds. If you let him in, then you have to let us in. Otherwise, it's discrimination. Are you kidding me? I shut that down immediately. Mike isn't swimming in my pool. He's not bringing his kids over. He's not hosting parties. He's just sitting on my patio on my invitation, drinking a beer. That's not the same thing as me opening my backyard up to the entire neighborhood. They tried to argue, but I didn't care. The fact is, the legal liability alone was enough of a reason to say no. If some random neighbor's kid drowned or got hurt, guess who'd be on the hook for it? Me. If someone broke something or caused damage, I'd be the one paying for it. And for what? So a bunch of entitled people could treat my backyard like a public pool? Absolutely not. Over time, they finally got the message. They stopped complaining, to my face at least, and eventually found some other neighborhood drama to focus on. Mike, still a great guy. We still hang out. Still doesn't swim. And I still have zero regrets about shutting down the community's free pool pass. It's wild that some people actually believe prior use equals permanent access. Like, just because you were mooching off the previous owners doesn't mean you now have a legal right to my property. What next? Are they going to claim squatters' rights over your patio furniture? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.